Shadow Lugia is returning to raids in Pokemon Go, and in this video I will be going through everything that you need to know for the Shadow Raid weekend, including the best counters for Shadow Lugia, and we'll be going through how good it is in Pokemon Go. The Shadow Raid weekend will be taking place on August 10th at 6 AM until August 11th at 10 PM local time. Shadow Lugia will be featuring, and it can be shiny from these raids with a 1 in 20 shiny rate, but bear in mind that these rates don't actually mean that you'll get one shiny if you do 20 raids. It actually means that you have a 5% chance from each raid to get the shiny. The event will be taking place during the Adventure Week Takeover event, and so the following bonuses will be in effect. Team Go Rocket will be appearing more frequently at Pokestops and in balloons. You can use a Charge TM to remove frustration from your Shadow Pokemon. You'll get 2 times XP for spinning Pokestops, 5 times XP for spinning a Pokestop for the first time. You'll get 2 times Hatch XP, and you'll have an increased chance to encounter shiny Cranidos, Shieldon, Turtuga, Archen, Tyrant, and Amora. In the wild will be Diglett, Omanyte, Kabuto, Dunsparce, Roggenrola, Drillbur, Bunnelby, and rarely Aerodactyl. In 7km eggs will be Cranidos, Shieldon, Turtuga, Archen, Tyrant, and Amora. In field research will be Dunsparce, Lileep, Anorith, Cranidos, Shieldon, Roggenrola, Drillbur, Turtuga, Archen, Bunnelby, Tyrant, and Amora. Some tasks will also reward Aerodactyl Mega Energy, Mysterious Components, and TMs. For the raids, in 1-star Shadow Raids will be Shadow Mareep, Wooper, Cranidos, and Shieldon. In 3-star Shadow Raids will be Nuzleaf, Manectric, and Vibrava. In 5-star Raids will be Moltres. In Mega Raids will be Mega Aerodactyl. And in 5-star Shadow Raids, instead of Shadow Suicune, will be Shadow Lugia. I will be going through which event Pokemon are worth focusing on later on in the video, but first, what are the best counters and strategies for taking down Shadow Lugia? While Shadow Lugia will have a raid TP of 45,925, and the 100% IVs for it will be 2115 and 2645 boosted in windy weather. It is a psychic and flying type, so it is weak to rock, ghost, electric, ice, and dark type attacks. So there are a lot of options of Pokemon to use, but here are the best counters that will help you beat the raid quickly and with the fewest amount of people as possible if that is a limitation for you. So for the mega counters, the best will be Tyranitar, Banette, Diancie, Gengar, Manectric, and Houndoom. The best shadow counters are Tyranitar, Magnezone, Weavile, Raikou, Electivire, and Zapdos. The best legendary and Ultra Beast counters are Dawnwing's Necrozma, Xurkitree, Zekrom, Therian Thundurus, Duskmane Necrozma, and Giratina Origin. And the best budget counters are Tyranitar, Hydreigon, Galarian Darmanitan, Electivire, Weavile, and Magnezone. This raid can actually be duoed with the best counters at high levels using Purified Gems, but this is pretty tough to do. Without the most optimal counters at high levels, I would recommend around 5 trainers. Using Purified Gems as soon as the raid boss enrages will make this fight a lot easier, but remember you can only use 5 Purified Gems per fight per trainer, and you do need to use 8 Purified Gems to subdue it, so you will need other people to help with this. To get Purified Gems, you do need to combine 4 Shadow Shards that you get from Team Go Rocket Grunts, Leaders, Giovanni, and from Shadow Raids. Also, remember to party up to use Party Power to make the raid easier. It's also worth noting, if you didn't already know, that Shadow Raids, including these 5-star Shadow Lugia raids, are in person only, so only the free orange raid passes and the premium green battle passes will be usable. Remote raid passes won't work, and you won't be able to invite anyone. So for those of you that don't have many people to raid with, there are a couple of options. Firstly, you could try using Niantic Campfire, local discords, or Facebook groups to see if you could organize an in-person raid with other people. Otherwise, you could use the Niantic Campfire map to see when the Lugia raids are going to hatch and where they're going to hatch. And if you try to go to one that hatches on a gym in a city or at a public landmark where there are more people, at the time of hatching, you might be able to raid with people that way too. And if you don't decide to Mega Evolve a Pokemon as a counter, you could Mega Evolve a Pokemon that's the same type as Lugia, so when you catch it, you'll get more Candy, Candy XL, and XP. As Lugia is a flying and psychic type, you could Mega Evolve Charizard, Pidgeot, Alakazam, Slowbro, Pinsir, Aerodactyl, which is currently in Mega Raids, Gardevoir, Medicham, Salamence, Latias, Latios, or Rayquaza. Mega Evolving whichever of these that you have at the max Mega level would be ideal because you will get more Candy, XP, and Candy XL. With that said, how good is Shadow Lugia in Pokemon Go? Is it actually worth raiding? So despite not having access to a flying type fast attack, although it may in the future, Shadow Lugia is still a decent option for a flying type raid attacker where it is the 13th best overall, with extra sensory and legacy charged attack Aeroblast as the best moveset. And when it comes to Go Battle League, Shadow Lugia is currently ranked 42 in the Master League, and Lugia in its non-shadow form is ranked 27, so there is an argument for purifying Shadow Lugia if you want it for the Master League, whereas for raid attacking you would want to keep Lugia in its shadow form. It's worth purifying a shadow for Go Battle League if you don't have a regular Lugia to use, or if when purifying the +2 on all IVs will take it close to a hundo. All of the Shadow Lugia that you catch will come with the shadow exclusive charge attack Frustration, but luckily with the Team Go Rocket takeover you can remove Frustration from any of your shadow Pokemon using a charge TM. And for Shadow Lugia to be at its best, it does want legacy move Aeroblast, which would also require an elite charge TM to get, and unless you have a lot of elite charge TMs, there will most likely be other Pokemon that you'd want to prioritize using these on over Shadow Lugia. Especially when it comes to raid attacking, the flying type isn't really one of the most useful types, so bear that in mind. And whilst you're out playing this event and raiding Shadow Lugia, which event Pokemon are worth focusing on? Firstly, whilst not meta relevant, Omanyte, Kabuto, Lileep and Anorith are required for parts of the Let's Go Meltan special research, so if you have that to complete, it's worth keeping an eye out for these Pokemon. Roggenrola will be available, and its evolution Gigalith is the 14th best rock type attacker. It's also worth noting that it does want legacy move Meteor Beam to be at its best, which would require an elite charge TM. Drillbur is a good Pokemon to go after because Excadrill is the 14th best ground type attacker and the 19th best steel type attacker, and it is even better in its shadow form, so if you have the shadow, it could be worth getting some candy from catching these Drillbur. Excadrill is also ranked 103 in the Master League. Bunnelby is an option to go after because its evolution Diggersby is ranked 102 in the Great League with 0, 15, 13 IVs. Aerodactyl might also be worth going after because it is required for a task in the Let's Go Meltan special research, but also Mega Aerodactyl is the 5th best rock type attacker overall. It is, however, less of a priority to go after if you have access to Mega Tyranitar and Mega Diancie. Mega Aerodactyl will be raidable during the event, but if you are limited on raid passes, then I recommend trying to get Mega Energy for Aerodactyl from field research and use your passes on something else instead, like Shadow Lugia or Shadow Cranidos for example. And with that said, Cranidos is well worth going after during this event because Rampardos is the 7th best rock type attacker, and it's the 2nd best in its shadow form and number 1 in terms of DPS. Shadow Cranidos will be available in 1-star shadow raids for the takeover, so a great chance to get your hands on Shadow Rampardos. Shieldon will also be available, and Bastiodon is ranked 8 in the Great League with 0, 15, 14 IVs, and it's ranked 15 as a shadow. And unfortunately, Shieldon will only be available from eggs or research during this event. That means that it will be difficult to get low attack IVs because both eggs and research have a 10, 10, 10 IV floor. So you could try to mirror trade with someone to reduce the attack IV if you want to get perfect PvP IVs. Shadow Shieldon will also be available in 1-star shadow raids during the event, where it will have a 666 IV floor, so also not really that ideal for a PvP Bastiodon. Tyrant is a good option for a rock type attacker because Tyrantrum is the 10th best rock type attacker overall. And Amora definitely could be one to go after for Go Battle League because Aurorus is ranked 55 in the Great League with 0, 12, 13 IVs, and it's ranked 44 in the Ultra League with 0, 15, 15 IVs. We do also have access to Shadow Wooper in 1-star shadow raids, and Shadow Quagsire is ranked 7 in the Great League with 0, 15, 14 IVs. So if you do want the perfect PvP IVs, I would recommend not raiding these and instead trying to wait and get Shadow Wooper when it's available from Team Go Rocket Grunts or Leaders, because it will have no IV floor, whereas Shadow Raids have a 666 IV floor. And when it comes to the 3-star Shadow Raids, Shadow Manectric might be worth going after if you're after a decent electric type attacker, because it is the 18th best electric type attacker, and you could always purify it for a Mega Manectric, which is the 4th best electric type raid attacker. It might also be worth going after Moltres because it is the 26th best fire type attacker, but one of the best in its shadow form, where it's the 8th best fire type attacker. So if you already have a Shadow Moltres, it could be worth raiding Moltres to get candy to power up the shadow. And with that said, there are no shortage of rare Pokemon in Pokemon Go, and if you want to know what some of the rarest Pokemon in the game are, then I recommend checking out this video next.